Let's talk about a certified Angus beef chuck roll. Historically, people come in and cut this into certified Angus beef chuck roasts, which is a great option. But I'm afraid you're leaving a little bit on the table if you choose to do that. And that's what I want to dive in to show you how you might be able to catch more value out of a chuck roll. So let me explain to start that this end of the chuck roll right here connects right into the ribeye. That's the next piece that would be on this. So this surface right here is going to taste almost identical to a ribeye steak, which is where we can take this and get chuck eye steaks, which again are going to be very similar to a ribeye steak, but for a much lower price. Great opportunity to put into your retail case. Now, there's also some other ways that we can merchandise this, and that's what I want to show you now is some more creative ways. But I'm going to back up and say, if you are just breaking this into roast, I would highly recommend that you at least come in and take out the chuck eye steaks. So while I'm going to show you some other creative ways, I would say at minimum you go ahead and cut those steaks before you break the rest into roast. So let's show you what we can do to break this down. So as you can see here, we have a little bit of silver skin, or what we can call bone felt, that needs to be removed. So we can go ahead and take our knife and run right underneath that. So as I take this off, I'm trying to get as close as I can to that bone felt to ultimately create the most or the maximum yield that I can get off of this product. Now I'm going to look over, but I don't see anything else that needs to remove off of this. So we can go ahead and break this into two parts. So a chuck roll can be broken into our chuck eye roll and into our underblade. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do next. I'm going to show you how we separate these. As you can see here, this right here is part of our chuck eye steak. So we want to keep that together. And we can come in right next to that, right down here, and separate this muscle right there, which is going to be the underblade muscle, from our chuck eye. Now we have our two pieces. We have our chuck eye roll and our underblade. I'm going to go ahead and start here with our chuck eye roll, and I'll come back to the underblade and show you how we can merchandise this. But let's start here. So the first thing we can do with our chuck eye roll is we can look at this side. And as you can see, this looks very much like a ribeye steak. So we're going to start by cutting off some chuck eye steaks. I'm just going to do a quick face cut to make things square. Now the catch with our chuck eye steaks is we can only get one, maybe two, sometimes three steaks out of a chuck roll. For this one, I'm probably going to stop here at 2. So for the next part, we could do this a few different ways. I could come in here and cut roast out of this. This would make a fantastic roast, and also these are very lean, beautiful roasts to retail. I could also come in, if you're wanting some boneless short ribs, we can come in and cut those by cutting again like we did with our chuck eye steaks, but then coming in at an angle and butterflying this out, like you can see here. Now, if it's too long to tray, for instance, like that, we could just go ahead and cut them in half, and we have these nice boneless country-style ribs. So another great option to do with the chuck roll. And then that leaves us with this last piece, which makes a fantastic roast. We could, if we want to get really fancy, we could butterfly this open and tie it to create a very nice chuck roast. So that's what we can do with the top part, our chuck eye roll. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to bring the underblade back, and I'll show you how we can merchandise that as well. What we're going to do first is, as you can see, this would be our whole underblade. Now there's a couple different muscles on here that we need to separate. The first one that needs to come off here is this muscle right here. This actually sometimes will be on a chuck roll, sometimes it may not. It would be part of what's called the Vegas steak. We're going to go ahead and take that off. That needs to go in, say, trim or for something else other than, you're not going to want to leave it on the underblade. So remove that. You can also see, in addition, we got some bone feld right there that also needs to be removed. That is where the scapula lied. It lied right on top of that, so it's been left on there as well, so we need to take that off. It'll be extremely chewy, so you never want to leave that on for your customers. So now we've taken that side muscle off. Now we're going to go ahead and take off what's called the Sierra steak. So if I flip this over, you can see the Sierra steak setting right there. So we're going to go ahead and pull right underneath it. Now the Sierra steak, when I get it out of here, you're going to see that it is very similar to a flank steak. It looks very much like a flank steak, and quite frankly, I would say anything that your customer might do with a flank steak, they could also do with the Sierra as well. Now then we have this muscle right here. You can usually find this one because if you look, it has a little off coloration. This is actually going to be off colored by the wash during the harvest process. Gives it this kind of dull gray look, almost a little bit of a cooked meat look. That's going to be what we call our hump muscle. We want to make sure that's removed because that particular muscle is quite tough. So that again needs to go in some sort of grinds or some other trim prep program because you do not want to leave that on any of the underblade. So here we have our underblade. The Latin name for this would be the serratus ventralis. This is the same muscle that connects to our chuck flap, which would be located right here. And right next to that would be our chuck bone-in short ribs. That would be the same muscle that runs underneath our chuck flap, our short ribs, all connecting back here. So in essence, anything you do with our chuck bone-in short ribs, you can also do here with our underblade. In fact, there are many people that would consider this boneless short ribs because we've already taken the bone off. So that is a fantastic option for this right here. During that time of year when you have more people looking for boneless short ribs, it's a great option for this. We could just kind of come in and cube this off a little bit, and great to retail that and put in your case as well. But I'm going to show you a different method here. We can come in and cut what's called Denver steaks. So I'm going to go ahead and cut diagonal. The reason I do that is, as you can see here, this run up is running parallel to the way the muscle fibers are running. Part of them turn and go this way, and part of them turn and go this way. So by cutting it in half, I can then take this, and I'm going to cut my Denver steaks along here, and I can then take this as well and cut my Denver steaks right here. So I'll start with this one. I'm going to square it up. Denver steaks are traditionally cut fairly thin. The thinner the steak, I would say around 1/4 of an inch thick would be kind of optimum. That is going to ultimately help with some tenderness. So once I've finished with that piece, I can move that to the side, and then I can bring this one in and continue cutting Denver steaks. But as you can see now, I'm cutting it from a different angle, but still against the grain. I'm going to go ahead and take off a little bit of this trim on top. So we'll stop there with these. The rest of this can then be used for some other application like beef for stew, or could be used for trim for ground beef. But ultimately that gives us one more steak option that we could fill our retail case with, probably at a different price point than some of our other cuts that we might already be offering. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of collect all these back together so you can see everything that we've got off our chuck roll all in one shot. Now, as I said earlier, one of my favorite things about the chuck roll is its versatility. We can get all sorts of steaks and roast from one single subprimal, and you can see that displayed here in what we have. You can see we got some chuck eye steaks. Now, this would be the most valuable thing on the table currently, but they are a great option and very similar to ribeye steaks. We have these nice Denver steaks that, again, are a great option, have great flavor, can do your customers something that they maybe have never had before. And then we have some beef for stew. We have that Sierra steak. We have this nice chuck roast here in the back. Now, it's important to remember, and I think this is also what's so cool about the chuck roll, is perhaps maybe you don't have customers that need the Denver steak. Well, then use that as short ribs, or just make more chuck roast out of it. Same thing with some of these other cuts. If you don't want the country style boneless ribs, well, then make more roast out of it. Your customers can ultimately use this, and that's likely what you could be doing with it already. So again, it gives you just this versatile options to do so many things with one single subprimal. Now, as you can see here for packaging, we have filled up all of our trays completely. We also are using black trays for that ultimate premium brand look. For your scale labels, make sure you're using the 3-word phrase, certified Angus beef, Also, to make sure your customers are recognizing the quality that you're offering, make sure you're using the full color Certified Angus Beef logo, because you want your customers to know if it's not certified, it's not the best, and to look for that logo. Now scan this code or visit certifiedangusbeef.com to order more labels or to download this merchandising sheet for this cut or others. And that's your Certified Angus Beef Meat Minutes.